Hey folks, Tito, Jeff Thitoff here with you at That Happens on Twitter, here with your Buckeye Blitz. Thanks so much for tuning in. Lots to talk about today. Ohio State today started their spring practices. Practice 1 of 15, the last one obviously being the spring game coming up on April 18th. And they got a long break now because they're not going to practice again now until March 24th after spring break. So they come in, get their work. No more practices again for a couple weeks before they start really ramping it up in March. Pro Day, by the way, is March 25th for Ohio State. Spring game again, April 18th. But after the practice today, Ryan Day did have time with the media and talked about a few things. And one of the things he mentioned, he was asked about having former NFL head coaches on his staff. And what he really appreciates about it, he said they have a different perspective. Coming from being a head coach in the NFL to being a coordinator in college football, they have a different perspective on things. And it also, there wasn't a trust with Brian Hartline, because there was, but he also can trust when you've got guys like Matt Patricia and Arthur Smith now, the DC and the OC respectively, that he says he can allows him to step away a little bit and kind of handle other things. You talk about being involved in other position rooms, but also being involved with the NIL stuff. You know, there's times he has to do things and have guys he trusts, and Patricia and Arthur Smith, guys who've had experience doing this stuff. Former head coaches in the NFL is a big thing for him. Also was released, Bill Landis reported this, that Arthur Smith's contract with Ohio State is a 2-year deal, $1.5 million in year one, $2 million in year two. Meanwhile, Matt Patricia, we knew he was going to get paid. We get paid a lot because of the fact that there was NFL interest in him, I believe. According to Landis, Patricia's extension with Ohio State, it's a 3-year deal through the 2028 season, and he gets $3.75 million in year one, $3.85 million in year two, and also year three. He's believed to be the highest paid coordinator in college football. I would not be surprised by that. Certainly the highest paid assistant coach in Ohio State history. Speaking of Arthur Smith, Dave mentioned he's not one of the guys going on the road right now to recruit. All the other coaches are, but Arthur Smith is one of those who's going to stay in-house and just stay there for now. Might be out recruiting later, but he's just going to recruit right now. Or not recruit right now. He's going to work on coaching right now and being in the building. He also said Arthur Smith was impressed with Julian Sayin. What's not to be impressed with there, right? Sayin should be more of a leader this year. And he'll probably be more mobile too. I'm not saying they've got to go out there, run him every down and make him a 100-yard rusher, but last year it certainly seemed like he was a bit hesitant to run. I think that's something got to change. Another year with Marotti, by the way, body by Marotti, Mick Marotti will certainly help him. And you see some of the changes in players from year to year with Marotti and what they do coming from high school even, and looking at the before and after type thing. It's a huge difference. They also praised him in the press conference. He also talked about Legend Bey, the freshman coming in, and he was asked what position does he think Legend Bey will play. And he said he's not sure. It's early, but he's got an interesting skill set because he played quarterback in high school. He can also play running back and maybe even wide receiver. So I don't expect much quarterback play, but I imagine he'll probably start off in a wide receiver position or a hybrid kind of position. He'll work both ways. He'll get some carries in the games. He'll also get some passes thrown to him. Again, a freshman, though. And Day said it's too early to say exactly what his role is going to be or what position he will fit into, but Day is excited about him. When he talked about the defense, he mentioned about creating more turnovers. It seems like that's something that gets asked every year and something gets answered the same way every year. That they do play an aggressive defense under Matt Patricia, but they always want to be able to create more turnovers. That's something they're going to be working on, punching at the ball and things like that. Ryan Day mentioned. So that's a big part. This Ohio State schedule this year is going to be tough. They've got to produce turnovers in some of these games. If you look at the schedule they've got in front of them, it's not going to be as easy. It will be a lot more difficult than last year's schedule. Let's put it that way. Also, he was asked about, kind of how the process goes to ramp up. And he said again, he wants the team to kind of start ramping up and then so they're at their peak at the end of the season, knowing that the college football national title is the ultimate goal. Now, last year, Ohio State, it was famously talked about that they played at a much slower pace than they had in years past. And that was by design, that Ohio State wanted to save on some of the wear and tear. And it worked because they played the equivalent in the regular season last year compared to the year before, compared to 2024. Ohio State played 2 fewer whole games in the regular season based on their pace of play. Number of plays they ran in 2024, number of plays they ran in 2025. 2025, considerably less. It essentially saved them 2 games off the schedule. Now, the downside of that is when they needed to play quick and needed to go, they sometimes sputtered because it was different for them. I hope this year Ohio State is much more aggressive early on in the season and, not necessarily, I'm not saying you've got to go out there and run a bunch of plays just to run a bunch of plays, but I don't want them to be as conservative as they were last year. I hope they won't be. Arthur Smith, really good with running backs, good with quarterbacks too, for that matter. And we'll see what happens there with the offense on that one. Lastly, about the press conference, 51 new guys out there today. And some do have a lot of experience. But Ryan Day said something interesting to me. They do have guys, obviously transfers coming, freshmen coming, but there's some guys with a lot of experience. Ryan Day said he felt last year's team was a little young for his liking. That was his word, a little young. But he did say, though, he's excited about this team. Again, one practice in, 14 more to go, and that includes a spring game. There's a lot more going on. And right now, he said his biggest concern is the running back room, just because with Isaiah West and Bo Jackson both not participating right now, and it'll give other running backs a lot of opportunities to get some reps. But there's a lot of uncertainty there because of Bo Jackson, Isaiah West not being there. So we'll keep an eye on that with Ohio State. But again, 2 more weeks till the next practice. First practice today. Ryan Day, the media availability. Lots of great stuff going on over there at the Woody. Let's switch gears to another place where great things are going on with Ohio State sports, Ohio State basketball, men's basketball team. Bruce Thornton, all-time leading scorer now, did that against Indiana on Saturday. And the Ohio State Buckeyes, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament this year. They get the double bye because of finishing with the 8th seed in the Big Ten, which is huge. The double bye means they don't play until Thursday. And that saves them from having to, years past, it seems like they're always playing that Wednesday game first, and then you got to go on a streak of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got to, it's a lot of games you got to play in there. So they don't start till Thursday, and they will play the winner of Maryland and Iowa. Maryland routed Oregon today. They were up like 44-12 at the half, I think it was, and ended up taking care of them. That game will be at noon Eastern. But this Ohio State team is going to be in the big dance this year. The question is on the seeding. And first of all, the naysayers out there thought they wouldn't make it. I never lost faith in this team. Never did. I've been thinking all along they were going to make the tournament. I said it before the season started. I think they make the tournament, and I said I think they've got Sweet 16 potential. Now, doesn't mean they'll make the Sweet 16, but they've got the right DNA, the right makeup of this team to make a run in March. Where will they be seated? Well, it's going to depend, obviously, on how they do in the Big Ten tournament. Let's say they beat Iowa or Maryland and then have to play Michigan on Friday. That's a tall task. My gut feeling tells me that Ohio State will go 1-1 in the Big Ten tournament. So if they do that, I think they're worthy. See, I don't want to be an 8 or a 9 seed. I want it to be a 7 or a 10. I'd much rather be a 7 or a 10 than an 8 or a 9. If you're an 8 or a 9 seed, you win that first game. Next, you're playing against, Duke. You're playing against who else might be there? Arizona, maybe Houston, Florida, UConn, maybe somewhere in there. This is a much tougher game. If you're 7-10 team, if you're the 10 team even, you can beat the 7 seed. Then you get a 2 seed after that. Hopefully, a favorable one on that one, and have a much. But of course, if you beat the 1 seed, the 1 seed's gonna be tough to beat, though. That's all there is to it. Not many 1 seeds lose in the second round. I know it's happened lately. There's been things that have happened with teams where they have lost that, but I would much rather be a 7 or 10. I think that they will be in the 7 to 10 range. 7, 8, 9, or 10 is where they're going to be. Unless they win the Big Ten tournament, they could maybe get to a 6. But, if they lose their first game, they might be a 10, I guess. I don't think they'll be an 11. I wouldn't see that happening with this team with the way they played down the stretch. They are playing their best basketball of the season right now. Bruce Thornton, by the way, named second team all Big Ten today. OSU women, they are poised to host the first 2 rounds. They should be a 3 seed. We'll find out about that on Selection Sunday as well. But they should be able to play their first 2 games at home, and as they usually do, which is a great thing. Ohio State should get that opportunity to host the first two games. Hopefully, get out of there and get to the Sweet 16 as well. Other news, but just foreign Buckeye news. The Steelers signed former OSU punter Cam Johnson. He was with the team before in 2024, got injured. They released him, but now he's back with the Steelers. One final note here. And Ted Carter, OSU president, has resigned his position. Offered his resignation, the board accepted it. Carter had an inappropriate relationship with someone who was who did business with Ohio State. And so he had to resign that position. Also, he and his wife, it looks like his wife of, I think, 45 years, are splitting up. Carter's been at Ohio State a little more than 2 years. It's a tough situation. Ohio State now needs to make the right hire. About Ted Carter, when he came on, I was impressed with how much of an interest he had in the athletic department, in athletics. He kind of had the vibe of, this athletic department is a big deal here as far as everything throughout the school. It gets the name out there, and he made it a priority with the athletic department. He said, I remember this, he and Ross Bjork both said this early on in their tenures. Ohio State's got 36 varsity sports, more than any other college in the United States. And they wanted to keep it at that. They don't want to cut sports. I know the NIL. I know athletic budgets are now changing because of how much money players being paid, coach buyouts, which I say doesn't do much of that, thank God. But athletic department budgets are changing all the time. And Ted Carter and Ross Bjork stood there in lockstep and said, we want to keep all 36 sports. We don't want to cut a single sport. They've been good with that so far. Depending on who the next hire is, though, that could change. I know Bjork got along with Ted Carter. I know that Carter liked Bjork. So it's going to be an important hire for Ohio State. There's been a lot of talk about Jim Tressel maybe being the next president of Ohio State. I talked to my co-host on 97.1 The Fan, Bobby Carpenter, about that today. And he said he doesn't know if he thinks Tressel might want to just take it slow, be slow, have a slower lifestyle, I guess I'm saying. He's a lieutenant governor right now, lives up in Akron, and don't know. Bobby said, I don't know if he wants this job. I mean, he's in his 70s now. He might just want to kind of take it easy and not have that responsibility. I agree with Buckeye Nation. Tressel will be an outstanding hire. He would be a terrific president for Ohio State. I just don't think it's going to happen, but I'm curious who it will be, because Ted Carter was supposed to be here for a long time, came in with a lot of accolades, a spotless reputation, and to leave this way, it's not good for Ohio State. It's certainly a bad look for Ted Carter. All right, folks, that's it for me, Jeff Thitoff. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been the Buckeye Blitz. Make sure you follow me on Twitter @ThitHappens, and I'll talk to you again soon, folks. Go Bucks.